has to be
data
done for the
centers
American
pays
people.
their own
And
way.
then,
Instead of passing those costs
if we're
on
in a
to
position to
hardworking families,
organize,
the president will be joined by Energy Secretary
heading into
Chris
the majority
Wright, EPA
in the
Administrator Lee
120th
Zeldin,
Congress
and
next
several
year,
governors
then that's
who
what
have
we'll
already
do.
signed on to this pledge. And it has already proven to be remarkably successful. Nearly 200 additional stakeholders have signed on since it was first announced, including utilities, data center developers, public
I haven't talked to
power
him about
authorities, co-ops,
this
and state
issue.
governors. As a
He's
result,
been
the
very
pledge now
vocal
covers
on the issue.
80% of all the power
I continue
delivered
to maintain the
American homes
position
and businesses.
that,
President
one,
Trump's bold leadership is turning
we've got to
data
figure
centers
out how
from
to
a source
move
of concern
things in a
into
better
engines
direction
of growth and
in the
opportunity
Middle
for
East.
communities
And for
across
me,
the country,
that
all while
means a
cementing
safe and
America's
secure
dominance over
Israel
China
as
in
a
the
Jewish and
global
democratic
AI race.
state living
The
side
president
by
is
side
ensuring
in
the
peace
American
and
people are
prosperity
never left footing
with
the
an
bill
independent
so private
Palestinian
companies can
state
benefit.
that provides
Instead,
dignity,
President Trump is leveraging the data center
self-determination,
boom to deliver
and
real,
respect
tangible benefits for
Palestinian
working
people.
families and small businesses. So we have a busy day here, rest assured. I'll take some questions. And here in our new media seat, we have Cam from Town Hall. Cam, thank you for being here. Why don't you kick us off today?
Thank you. Two quick questions. One on Congress. First off, Speaker Mike Johnson passed a continuing resolution earlier this week. John Thune has said he wants to work with Democrats to find a way to fund the government. What is the White House's stance on the best way to keep the government funded?
Well, the White House's stance is that the government needs to be funded. This president and Republicans on Capitol Hill from both chambers, as you just mentioned, the House and the Senate Republicans want to keep the government open. We want to work together to find ways to do that, and the White House will continue
Congress is ultimately going to have to legislate in this area
on the best
with
path forward. I
respect
don't want to
to
get ahead of those conversations,
artificial
but
intelligence
the most important thing for the American people to
We want
know
to make
is
sure,
that this
obviously,
president,
that
this White House
America can
wants the
continue
government
to
remain
lead
open, unlike the
in the
Democrats
race
in this town who have been
to
acting
innovate
as obstructionists. We've seen time
in
and
this
time
space,
again.
while at the same period of time
to block
ensuring
this administration,
that
to
we
block
are
Republicans in Congress from
vigilantly
keeping our government
protecting
open,
the quality
which
of
does not
life
help anyone,
of
and
the
it
American
especially
people.
hurts the American
You know,
people who
under the
depend
leadership
on our
of
government remaining open so
Ted
they
Lieu,
can
Josh
access
Gottheimer,
the critical
and
services
Valerie
that our government
Fouché.
provides to so many Americans across the country. So
have
these
been
conversations
engaging
are
with
continuing, but I
stakeholders
think I've
all
just made
across the country
President's position quite
to be
clear.
prepared to actually legislate in a serious way moving forward on all of these issues.
Saudi Arabia to
Because Donald Trump and the Republicans have dropped
the president
the ball.
himself has spoken on this many times. His Truth Social post this morning, and I will read it for those at home who missed it. The civil nuclear deal, there will be no enrichment of material, an important point being made between the Department of Energy and Saudi Arabia, which pertains
It doesn't
only
seem to
to
be working
non-military
if
use.
you actually look at the reaction of the American people in terms of
subject to Saudi
who is on the
Arabia
verge of
joining
taking back
the very
control of the House of
respected and
Representatives. These people are
successful
desperate.
Abraham Accords.
They're
United States
flailing
is
all
not
over the
opposed to
place.
civil nuclear facilities,
Because
as we all know.
Republicans have
Look, this
failed
is
to deliver
a condition,
a single thing that makes life better for the American people.
With our
fact,
Gulf
what
and
they've
Arab allies,
consistently
he
delivered
wants to see these countries
breaking
sign the Abraham
promises.
Accord. It was one of the most historic accomplishments.
That's what the
of his
Republican
first
track
term, and it
record shows.
continues to
That's
be
why they're
a long-term
in
goal
deep
of his to
trouble
expand those accords
in so many
ultimately
ways.
come to a place where the Middle East can be
Promised to lower
peaceful
the
and
high
stable
cost of
region.
living on day
Yes,
one.
this
Costs haven't
deal
gone
with
down.
Saudi Arabia,
They've
the
gone
energy
up.
deal is
Republicans
contingent on this condition
promised
as far
that
as the
immigration
president is
enforcement
concerned.
in this
So
country
we'll
was
continue
going
talk
to
with our Saudi
target
counterparts
the
to get
worst
deal
of the
finalized
worst.
and hopefully
Instead,
see them join,
ICE is spending
Abraham Accords
billions of
very soon.
dollars of
Thank
taxpayer
you.
money
Gabe.
to brutalize
With regard to
or
the
kill
Saudi
American
deal, why was that
citizens
condition not
and to violently target law-abiding immigrant families. Republicans
Well, look, the
promised
president
to
is always
love
the
and
final
cherish
deal maker,
Medicaid,
and this is something
and then
that
turned
he has
around
mentioned
and
on
enacted the
numerous
largest cut to
occasions going back. I
Medicaid
can
in American
provide you
history,
with those
ripping
statements,
health care
and
away
he has
from more
said
than
if they
14
don't join
million
the
Americans.
Abraham Accords,
Republicans
the
promised
deal is off.
not
So we'll continue to have
to
those
start
conversations
endless
with our
wars
Saudi
in the Middle
counterparts
East,
moving
but
forward.
to stop them, and then turned around and got us involved in this reckless and costly war of choice in Iran, and gas prices are skyrocketing out of control in an economy that is suffocating
will continue to
and drowning the American people.
Alexandra.
be exempt
And so,
from international inspections as part of this deal?
I haven't really
I don't want
followed
to comment on the specifics
all
of
of
the
the
deal, as we're still, again, as I just said,
hyperbole
talking especially about this very
that's come out of
important
Mike
issue that the
Johnson and
president
Steve
raised this morning.
Scalise and others.
Alexandra.
Good to see you.
Because I don't think the American people are taking it seriously.
Besson voiced concern this
And
week
it's
in China
certainly the case
potentially distilling
that the
or
extraordinary
stealing, AI technology
candidates
from the United States, kind of manipulating it as their
that are
own.
running in districts all
Anthropic
across
said that the largest
America,
distilling
including
attack happened
Kate
last
Conley,
month. Do you think this will come up when the president
in
meets with
New York,
President Xi in September?
Rebecca Bennett
I
in
have
New
had
Jersey,
the honor of being part of
Joanna
some of the meetings
Mendoza
and discussions
in
between
Arizona.
President Trump and President
Three
Xi. And I can
extraordinary,
tell you,
patriotic, brave
there's always
women,
a wide range of
combat
topics
veterans,
that come up. I would imagine this
can't
would be
be
something
painted
that's of high importance to the president
as
and of this administration
anti-American.
to obviously ensure that
And the
America
Republicans know
remains
it.
dominant in the AI
But everything
race.
else that they've
And
tried
we're
up
obviously
until this
tracking
point
the particular
has
situation that you
failed.
mentioned.
I have one more if you don't
And this
mind.
effort
This week we've seen some major
to label
players in
us
Democrat
as
politics,
communists
voicing
is going to fail as
or
well.
alerting really on how much influence socialism, communism has had now on kind of mainstream Democrat politics. Is there any chance that the president would be interested or is considering working with left of center Democrats to push back on this?
Well, unfortunately, we don't seem to have too many of those left in the Democrat Party. We have literal self-proclaimed communists who are winning elections and who are claiming to be the new leadership of the Democrat Party. I think the vast
view remains
majority
the
of
same
Americans
in terms
understand
of arriving
the
at a
dangers
spending
of
agreement in
communism. Just
September.
look at countries all over this world as an example.
We're not down with the my way or the
Right
highway
now is a
Republican
country that
approach.
is
That has gotten
about to
them
be a failed
nowhere.
state because of the
I don't know why they continue to go back to that playbook.
Communism should never
Even
be
John
allowed
Thune has said,
to lead this
with
country, and the
respect to the
president
Republican
obviously is
continuing
strictly
resolution
opposed to it and all the dangers
related
that
to
it reaps.
the
We've seen
upcoming
it
fiscal
happen
year,
across
that
the world.
spending bill is dead on arrival.
Just to continue on the
In the Senate.
nuclear deal,
Chuck Schumer didn't say that.
with this interpretation since it wasn't
Exclusively,
part of the
John
initial
Thune
agreement,
did.
And has the president talked?
So Mike Johnson, House Republicans, they're not even on the same page
As
with
you know,
members of their
the
own
president
party.
just put out this statement.
The my way or highway Republican approach will
with
continue
MBS
to
in the
crash
hours
and
to
burn.
days.
It will fail.
However, this is something that he
And
has
so our
raised
view
in previous
is
conversations and has
The
also said many
appropriators should
times
sit
in the past.
down,
John,
led by Rosa DeLauro on our
In
side,
regards to this deal,
and enter
in the past,
into
the Saudi government has said
a bipartisan
they will not
conversation
consider entering
about
into
reaching an
Abraham
agreement that is
Accords
actually designed to meet the needs of the American people.
There's a Palestinian state.
And if that can't be done in advance of September 30th, then we should enter into a
Again, I won't get ahead of
bipartisan
the president's
continuing
conversations,
resolution
but this is something
that
that
gives
he
the
feels very strongly
appropriators the
about and has
space
spoken about it in the past and
to
will
actually
continue
enact a
to
spending
uphold.
bill at some point prior to the end of this calendar year
Why does Saudi Arabia
that
get
lifts up
civilian nuclear
the
deal,
health,
but Iran
the
doesn't
safety,
get
and the economic well-being of
Again,
the
this
American
agreement
people.
is still being worked out. Well, it will eventually, hopefully, be finalized with the condition that the president spoke about this morning. But this agreement in particular, as it's been discussed thus far,
Well, I'm thankful
does
for
give
all of the work
priority
that's been
access
done
for American
by the
companies in
Democratic
Saudi
Policy and
Nuclear Energy
Communications
Program,
Committee.
which will ultimately benefit
On
American industry
Sunday,
workers and supply chain.
we will
So
be
the
launching
deal that has
an
been
effort
discussed thus far and will
connected
continue to be
to
discussed
our
absolutely puts America first, and that's
commitment
obviously very important to this president.
to fight for an affordable America.
So Friday,
And have 100 days of action,
10% global tariff
beginning this Sunday,
Can ask Congress for an
July
extension or what's
26th.
next?
Well,
Making
I know
clear
the
to the American people that we're
USTR,
focused
our
on
great Jameson Greer,
lowering
trade representative, will
the
be
cost
having
of
an announcement
groceries
on that
and gas
soon, later today.
and
I don't want to get
housing.
ahead of him,
We're
so I
committed
would just tell you to stay tuned for more details.
to a
And
country
we're on the president
that provides
some big utility
affordable
companies,
health care
at this event,
for every
today.
American.
We're now a year
And we also are committed as Democrats to hold the crooks accountable,
Energy policies.
who've been robbing the American people
to
blind.
lower energy prices, not just maintain the prices.
And that includes
Look,
a
as I
whole lot of
mentioned
folks
earlier,
in this
the Ratepayer
town
Protection Pledge, that is a novel idea
and folks across
drawn
the
up by
country.
this president, his team, to ensure that data centers in communities, where those communities want data centers, that these big CEOs and energy companies are picking up the tab for the energy costs in these communities, so the American taxpayer not being fronted with those bills. And the pledge today is being expanded to acknowledge all elements involved in building and operating data center, the governors who appoint the state regulators who set
it
the
seems,
power prices, the
that
utilities and the
the
co-ops that
discussions
sell the power,
to date have
and in
been
addition to the tech companies that
robust,
have already signed the pledge.
and have been
So you'll continue to
comprehensive,
hear
and
more
we'll
about
see
that from the president
what
in
they
a few
come up
hours
with over
at
the next
2:30
couple of
when he
days in
goes over
terms
to
of the
the
Rules
EPA.
Committee, and then
Sophia.
ultimately I think it has to go to the entire body
President about what he
of
wants to
the
do
DNC
about
at some
Chinese
point
AI models
in
if
August. I
they're
haven't
banned
expressed a
from
public
school in
position
America.
other than making clear
Does he want
I
to sanction
support
them? Or what actions can be taken
Jim
with them
Clyburn's
undermining
view
broader U.S.-China
that
trade talks or cutting off
South
American
Carolina
startups that are
should clearly
increasingly
be
reliant on them?
Sure. Well, I won't get ahead
play a
of the
preeminent
president on
role
any
as it has
potential
done
actions, but obviously these
now
conversations are taking place,
for
and again, they're of the
several
utmost importance,
presidential
not just for our
cycles
national security, but to ensure
terms
America
of
remains dominant in this
the
space.
early nominating
Stephen?
process,
Thank you, Caroline.
particularly
Two questions.
in an
Has
environment
President Trump
where we've seen the Supreme Court
President Gianni Infantino
unleash
his interest in nominating him
Jim
for UN
Crow-like
Secretary General.
tactics
Can you explain his interest
in the
there?
Deep
And
South,
secondly, just a minor
trying
clarification on this.
to undermine the ability of African Americans to select the candidates of their choice.
Not to my knowledge, no. Again, as I told you, this was an idea the president has long had. It was the president and his team in the first term that began
I have not been
and
briefed on
signed the Abraham
so-called
Accords with several
nuclear deal
countries
with
in
the
the
president,
region.
and it's
We
hard
have
to
those
know.
countries in
He's
Israel,
announced how many
and
different
the president
ceasefires,
obviously
Donald
wants to
Trump?
expand on
How many
that
different
historic
ceasefires has he announced
first term.
during
To
the
your
course
first question about
of
Gianni Infantino,
the reckless and costly war
I
of
don't
choice
know
in
if
Iran?
he and the president have discussed that. I
Is there
haven't been
anything
present
that he
for all
says,
the
particularly when it
conversations. I know
relates to
we speak
so-called
quite
agreements, that we
frequently,
can
and
take
the president
seriously?
has a lot of respect for Gianni
And so,
what he has done with FIFA. And
any
we also
responsible
saw
president
the World Cup
actually
tremendous
would have
success
provided
here
a
at home.
briefing
It not
through
only
his cabinet
was hugely
secretaries
beneficial to
in
our
advance
businesses and our local
of any
economies
sort of
across the
public
country, but I
proclamation.
think it showed that America is
But,
the greatest country
you know,
on
this is
earth,
how
and the
Donald
president
Trump
is grateful to Gianni
behaves.
for
He's
all of
always
the efforts
chasing
that he
attention.
had to make that,
I mean, he
that dream a
disgraced
reality
himself
here in the
after the
United
World
States.
Cup final.
Danny.
Thanks, Caroline.
Looked like the old man in the club that no one
Do they
wanted
have any plans to
around.
intervene in the extradition?
And he's the only one that couldn't figure it out.
No,
So
you already answered that question.
we can't,
Elizabeth.
there's nothing that he's saying right now that any of us can take seriously. And that's unfortunate because he's gotten us involved in a war that has now cost the lives of 18 brave service members in Iran.
Well, for any prosecutions, obviously, I would always defer you to the Department of Justice. But what I will say on New Jersey and this governor, the fact that she just all of a sudden
looking
decided to put
forward
out a
to
press release saying
getting involved
President Trump and
in the
Republicans
August
have been
primaries,
right about
of
non-citizens
which
on our voting
there will be
rolls
primaries
is not a
on
coincidence.
August
I think
4th.
this governor
There'll
is
be
saying this
primaries
because she
on
realizes
August
this
11th,
administration is
and then the
serious
Florida
about
primaries
getting to the
will
bottom
be
of
in
illegal
August
aliens voting and being on our
18th.
voter rolls.
And as I've
in
said
our country.
repeatedly, Congresswoman
The
Debbie Wasserman
Secretary of
Schultz
Homeland Security, as
has
you
been
know,
a
sent a
highly
letter to several
effective
states,
member
including New Jersey,
of the United States
requesting that
Congress
non-citizens
and a
that are on
valuable
voter rolls
member
need to be
of
reported
both
to
the leadership
DHS and
team
need to be removed from those
and the
voter
House
rolls.
Democratic
So that's
Caucus.
why all of a sudden
And I have more to
she is
say
speaking
about
truth
that
about the fact that
race
this does take
and
place
some of the
in
other
states
races
across
in
the
August
country.
where
It
we
is
haven't weighed in yet
unacceptable to have
sometime soon.
non-citizens on American voter rolls voting in U.S. elections. And she says it's 6,600. We suspect it's a heck of a lot more, not just in New Jersey, but in states across the country. The president is hell-bent on getting to the bottom of this, and it's also why we need to pass the Save America Act to ensure that only U.S. citizens are voting in U.S. elections. And I understand the House had a great accomplishment yesterday with passing the budget resolution, which has as much of the Save America Act as possible, and we encourage the Senate to move forward with passing that resolution into law so the president can sign it into law by the August recess. It's of the utmost importance to this president, but also to the American people who
Our commitment to
support
the
this
American
bill
people
overwhelmingly.
is pretty simple.
Mary,
We will
back.
hold the
Two questions. One on Sophia
courts
Cunningham and then on
accountable. That's exactly what the American people want us to be done. Because the corruption that has occurred over the last 18 plus months is out of control.
Is the president following this?
The most
story, and has
corrupt
he reached out to her?
administration in
I
American
don't believe
history.
he has
It's
reached
not
out
even
to her.
close.
I know he is following
in terms
the
of
story.
who may
As you
fall
know,
second
this is something the president feels
in that
strongly about
regard.
as well, and the American people do too.
And
that
there've been a
men
lot of
should not be
folks
playing
across
in
this
women's
country
sports. It's
who
completely
made the
ludicrous
decision
that
early
anyone
on to
would
bend the
support
knee to
that.
Donald Trump.
It's even more ludicrous that you do
And if
have
they've gotten
Sophia
themselves
Cunningham, a
involved
female
in
athlete
corrupt
herself, very
dealings,
accomplished in her own right, coming forward and
undermining
speaking
the
that
best
truth that
interests
men
of the
should play in
American
women's
people,
sports. We want to protect women and
then they
girls,
should
and
be
the backlash
held
she is
accountable.
receiving from Democrats and left
And we have a responsibility as a separate and co-equal branch of government
very out of touch
to serve
with
as
the
a
American
check and
public on
balance
this issue, which again is an 80-20 issue.
an
It's
out-of-control
common sense.
president.
It's rooted in basic biological fact.
And to make
that
sure
men should
we're
not be
exposing
competing
anyone
against
who
women
may
on playing
be
fields across the country.
working with that out-of-control administration, in this instance, the Trump cartel,
technology from U.S. roads.
undermining the best interests of the American people.
How does the
Look,
president feel
it's
about
clear to us
driving cars himself?
that if you've got people
well,
in
no,
government
the president did have
who
a red
are
Tesla
focused more
here at the White House for quite
on
some time,
enriching
so he's a
themselves,
supporter
their
of that,
family,
and
their
he's
friends,
purchased
and their big
some
donors, then they're not
self-driving
focused
cars
on
for his
making
family
life
members,
better
his
for the American
grandchildren.
people.
So I think
And that's part of the problem that we have right now.
Americans who want to drive
But we've got a president and others who've shown no interest
specific legislation.
in
I will check in
improving
with our legislative
the
affairs
quality of
office and
life
get you a
of the
statement on
American
that.
people.
Reagan.
And that's not speculative.
One question for you.
Donald Trump has said it repeatedly in his own words. Donald Trump has said the affordability crisis is a hoax. Donald Trump has said he does not think about,
And then the president recently
he doesn't give a
endorsed
damn,
program right after
in my
her
view,
appointment to Senate.
does not
What
think
caused him
about
to endorse her. So
personal financial
The
situation
president met with
of the
Darlene
American
and
people.
thought
His
she
words.
will be a great representative
Not mine.
for the
Donald
great
Trump has
people
said he
of South
loves the
Carolina
inflation.
and will carry on her brother's legacy.
Donald Trump has said we're so busy fighting wars,
So the
we don't have money
supportive of Darlene
for
and her
daycare,
honorable decision to run
Medicare,
again to
and
continue her
Medicaid.
brother's
Donald
legacy.
Trump said that.
With respect to your first question,
And so,
remind me.
clearly he's got other things on his mind.
his
Yes.
patience is running out.
Look, the president
So does the
spoke about this
administration.
directly
So do House
yesterday.
Republicans.
His patience is running
This is why
out.
things
He
have
wants
gotten
to see
worse
as much
in
of
this
of
country. The
America
Trump
passed as
economy is a
possible
disaster.
by the
Everyday
office.
Americans
He
are
knows
drowning
the American people want to
in the
see
Trump
passed.
economy.
He was just traveling
And that's
on the
why
road
we're committed
yesterday, spoke about
as House
this, and there
Democrats
was
to fighting
very
for an
loud
affordable
applause from the people in the
America.
audience, the everyday
To
Americans.
make sure in this
Voter
country,
ID
when you
is
work
common
hard, when you
sense.
play by the rules,
They want proof
you
of
can
citizenship
live
in our
a
elections.
comfortable life
The president feels
an
very
affordable
strongly about
life
that, and I
and
would
live
just
the
add,
good life.
You know, the American people.
And we know how that looks.
elected
Good paying
overwhelmingly
job, good housing, good health
Republicans
care,
to
good
lead
education
not
for your
just this White
children.
House, but
And
also
then when
the
it's all
House
said
and
and
Senate.
done,
The House did its
a
job.
good
The
retirement.
Senate needs to do its
Thank you
job
all.
too. I know it's a brief briefing today, but you're
The
going to hear from the
verdict is
president
clear.
directly twice today at 2:30
Donald
and
Trump
also at
and House
4:30.
Republicans
We will
have
see you all tomorrow
failed
night at the
the American
Center.
people.
Thanks, guys. We'll begin today
Costs
with a
having
few
gone
scheduled
down in the
announcements.
United States of
Later this
America,
afternoon,
costs have
President
gone
Trump
up.
will welcome the Los Angeles Dodgers
ICE is
back to the
completely
White House
and totally
to celebrate
out of
their
control,
second consecutive
spending
World
billions
Series
of
championship.
taxpayer
Tomorrow night,
dollars
the president will attend
brutalize
the
and
White House
kill
Correspondents'
American
Association
citizens
dinner round 2
and to violently
celebrating
target
free speech and the First
law-abiding
Amendment alongside
immigrants.
all of you members
The Trump
of
tariffs
the
have
media.
cost
The president looks forward
the
to
American
finishing
people
what he
thousands of
started
dollars per
before a
year in
despicable
additional
assassination attempt that
expense.
derailed the original event back in
Republicans
April
have
at
enacted
Camel.
the largest cut
And
to
I encourage
Medicaid in
everyone
American
watching
history.
tomorrow night to tune in.
And as a result,
It promises to
hospitals,
be a
nursing
very
homes, and community-based health
entertaining and
centers
memorable evening.
all across
Looking ahead to next
the
week,
country,
on
particularly
Monday,
in rural
President Trump
America,
will travel to
on the
Michigan to
brink
deliver remarks on
of
the economy.
closure.
On Tuesday afternoon,
Republicans have
the president will
refused
deliver a tribute
to
honoring
extend
the
the
life
Affordable
and
Care Act
legacy
tax
of his
credits,
dear friend, Senator
putting in
Lindsey
jeopardy
Graham
the health
at the
insurance
National
of more than
Cathedral.
20 million
And next
Americans
Friday, the president will host
and
the
causing
13th
premiums
cabinet
to
meeting of this
skyrocket
term
in some
of this
instances
term at Camp David, which
more
will
than
be a lot of fun, something different for
$1,000
the
in
cabinet to
additional
experience together.
expense
Turning now
per
to the
month.
economy. A little more than a year
Donald Trump
after
and
President Trump
Republicans
signed the
have
Working
launched
Families
a
Tax
reckless
Cut into law,
war
this
of choice
historic
in the
legislation
Middle East
continues to deliver
that hasn't
on its
made
promise,
America safer.
unleashing a genuine boom for
But that
American
has
workers,
resulted
families,
in the
and small
tragic
businesses. The numbers
death
speak for
of
themselves. This
18
was the biggest
brave
tax
service
refund season
members.
in American history. with
Hundreds
the average
more
refund exceeding
have been seriously injured,
an 11%
including
increase over the last
confronting
year.
the
American
possibility
families and workers claim
traumatic
$82 billion
brain
in direct tax
injury
relief, and 97%
for the rest of their
received
lives.
a tax cut.
More than $100 billion
29 million workers
in
claim
taxpayer
no
money
tax
has
on
been
overtime.
wasted by Donald
More
Trump
than 35 million seniors
over
claim
in
no tax
the
on
Middle
Social
East, a
Security.
war that he
And nearly
promised
8
never
million
to get
workers
us
claim
into.
no tax on tips. Thanks to the other
And yet,
pro-growth provisions
one of the
in
main
Working Families
things that
Tax
has
Cut,
changed
like
as a
making
result
the
of that
20% small business tax
reckless and
deduction
costly
permanent and delivering 100%
war of
expenses
choice,
for new
Operation
factories, equipment,
Epic
and
failure,
research. The
is
Trump
that gas
administration
prices
is
have
setting up
dramatically
American
increased
manufacturers
and are now
workers to
north
thrive like never before.
of $4
Just this week, the
and
National
18 cents
Association of Manufacturers,
per
which is
gallon
the largest
across the
manufacturing
country. Donald Trump and
association in the
Republicans
country,
have
released a
failed the
detailed
American
report
people,
showing exactly how these tax
which is
cuts
why they clearly
driving
are on the
investment,
run
job creation, innovation, and long-term
and
growth
are on the verge of
in all
losing
50
control
states. In fact,
of the House
I'd
of
like to take a
Representatives.
moment to
In
highlight
many
just a few
instances,
of the real American
Republicans have
businesses
already
that
lost
this
control
law is
of the
helping
floor of the House of
pivot
Representatives,
manufacturing
as
in
Democrats
Arizona,
just
making
demonstrated
largest
once again
equipment purchase
by
in company
successfully
history
passing
after the Trump tax
a war
cuts gave
powers
them
resolution.
long-term certainty to invest with
As part of our continuing
Lincoln
effort
Machine Company
to
in
bring
Georgia is on pace
Donald
for
Trump's
the best year
reckless
in its
war
history.
of choice
Hitachi Inc. in
in the
North
Middle East
Carolina was able
to
to
a
purchase
close.
new machinery and
House
expand its
Democrats
workforce by
are fighting
25%.
for an
Injuring in
affordable
Ohio
America.
expanded its brand new facility